Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prose podcast, your go-to source for the art, the craft, and the business of publishing. I'm Tally Shamus, an agented writer and a literary intern.
And I'm Lauren Kahn, an author and literary agent. As former attorneys and book lovers, we're pulling back the curtain on an industry known for being opaque.
And today we are so thrilled to welcome Layne Fargo onto the show. Layne Fargo has a background in theater, women's studies, and library science, so it's only fitting that she now writes deliciously dramatic, unapologetically feminist stories for a living. She's the best-selling author of the novels The Favorites, They Never Learn, and Temper, as well as co-author on the Widows series, and her work has been translated into more than 20 languages. Layne lives in Chicago with her partner, their pets, and an ever-expanding collection of books she's definitely going to read before she dies. Today we're trying a new segment on the show, so let us know what you think about this. But essentially we are featuring books that we have really been enjoying lately or that we have finished reading. And so today our feature is Heiress of Nowhere by Stacey Lee. This book is actually set to release on the day that this episode will go live, March 17th. And this is just such a fantastic atmospheric YA. This is a historical Gothic mystery. And if you know anything about me, you know this is exactly the type of book that I love. It's got nature, it's got underrepresented characters, it's got drama. Enjoyed this one so much, so check it out if you have a chance. And thank you, Simon & Schuster, for sending this book over.
Hi, Layne. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to talk with you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We were just chatting about how you're currently missing figure skating in the Winter Olympics on TV right now to come and speak with us. So thank you so much. But I'm so curious how you're using this, live Winter Olympics. It's crazy that it's happening right now, just as you're in the middle of the beginning of promotion for your next book, which also takes place in the figure skating world. How are you using the Olympics in your writing?
Well, I'm using it a lot for this new book. The Ice Queens will be out in 2027, and we just announced it last week, but I'm still writing it because the whole third act of the book basically takes place at the 2026 Olympics in Milan. So I was trying to, obviously I had some ideas of what I wanted to happen, but when I tried to write those scenes, it just felt like I was writing sci-fi or something, even though it was just a few weeks out. So after tomorrow, which is the ice dance final, then I'll know everything that happened in real life and can fictionalize it to my liking. But yeah, it's been really interesting because my other ice dance book, The Favorites, took place more in the early 2000s. So everything was already set in stone and I could do a lot of research. And it's been on the ground research, there are going to be all these competitions in the book that I personally attended this last year. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That is so fascinating. I love how you can actually follow this event in real time and incorporate that into your novel. Well, you mentioned The Favorites, which I absolutely loved, and I definitely want to ask you about that. But why don't we start with some background? Tell us kind of in detail what your writing journey was like from drafting to querying, submission with your first book.
Sure. So I always wrote, from the time I was a little kid, I would write. I wrote a little illustrated book about my parents' mischievous cat. I wrote fan fiction for various things, mostly Star Wars, a little Sequest DSV, if that's a deep cut for the real nerds. So I always wrote a lot, but I never thought of it as something I could do for a career. And I was really a perfectionist. I would write a page or a paragraph even and then stop and just not finish anything. Basically, it was it had to be perfect before I could move on, which is you have to be able to write that shitty first draft to get published.
Yeah.
And so what really got me past that was in 2012 I did National Novel Writing Month. A friend of mine was doing it who she had always been a much more serious writer, and I was just kind of playing around, I think. So I decided to do it, and it lit something up in me where I like with National Novel Writing Month, like may it rest in peace, you
Yeah.
have to write so many words per day to get to 50,000 in a month that you don't have time for perfection. You don't have time to go back and edit things and make them lovely. You just like keep on going. So it helped get me past that and like really get to enjoy the process of writing. And then I just got kind of obsessed with it. Like I think it was almost like a backdoor way in where I was like, I'm just doing this for fun. I don't want to be a published writer. Like I'm not, this is just a lark. I'm not going to do this anymore. And then I just got obsessed with it and obsessed with learning about the publishing industry. And so that first book from National Novel Writing Month, it went through many different versions. I edited it like so many times. I submitted it to a bunch of agents. I racked up over 100 rejections, 2 rejections from pitch wars. I just kept trying. Like, so it really, that book will never see the light of day, but it taught me a lot about revision and about just having like a thick skin and kind of like what it takes to be in the industry. And then I tried writing a couple different books that were like totally different genres. I was just like, what's this? I don't know. And then I finally came up with the idea for my novel Temper. And that one, it clicked in a different way. It got me into pitch wars. It got me an agent and became my first published book. And the agent that I'm with now, she was one of the over 100 who had rejected that first book, which I love to bring. I've done like conference panels and stuff with her. And I'm always like, she rejected my first book because she has taste. It's so true though. But she just stayed like my dream agent. And I just kept thinking about her. Like she didn't even find me through pitch wars. It was after that was all over, I queried her just like cold query and she requested the full and we're still together to this day.
Incredible.
That's amazing. And such a story of resilience. What do you think kept you going? And what do you think was different about the book that did not get picked up and then the book that ultimately got you an agent?
I think the big difference was like the authenticity of it. I actually got this rejection from an agent for that first book she had read the full and she wrote me a really lovely personalized rejection, which like if you've been in the querying trenches, you know how rare that is. Like you usually get the form like thanks but no thanks or like nothing. So she wrote me this lovely detailed rejection and it basically was like, you're a good writer. I can see the promise here, but there's something about these characters, this world, this story that feels really inauthentic. And it was like a dagger to my heart because I knew it was true. It was like one of those pieces of feedback that just hits you so hard because you're like, oh man, that's it. That's totally it. So since then, authenticity has really been like the thing that I keep coming back to and trying to, and the thing about a writing career is it's like you think you know yourself and your voice and like what you want to say. And with every book you learn that you had no idea before. And there's actually like all these other layers. So I think even back when I was getting rejected over and over, what kept me going was that feeling like I was peeling back the layers and learning more about myself and learning more about this industry and the craft of writing. And like, I don't have an MFA. I didn't go to school for writing. It was just like doing research, reading books I loved, reading craft books, listening to a lot of podcasts actually back then. Yeah, so it just I'm like someone who I always joke I want to have homework forever. Like I really loved school and now I have homework forever. That's what being a writer is like. You're just constantly learning about the craft and about yourself and there's really no end to it.
I can totally relate to that. I definitely loved school as well. So you mentioned craft books and podcasts and all of these resources. Would you mind sharing some of those? Just your favorite craft books, even just authors you enjoy or books that have inspired you?
Sure. I mean, my number one craft recommendation is always Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic. And she had this podcast called Magic Lessons, I think, that I listened to so much. Like I would listen to episodes over and over back when I was trying to get published. Because it just, I don't know, like she was so compassionate towards, and like really listening to her and to her guests and like the aspiring artists that she was talking to on the show, it just made me feel like legitimate in this way. I was like, oh, okay, they're going through what I'm going through. Like they're doing it. I can do it. So yeah, I love those. And then The Artist's Way was a big one. I know that's like the most basic, but I did morning pages for years. I don't do it anymore. But back when I was kind of going on this journey of trying to get published, I started doing morning pages and it helped me get to know myself better and kind kind of, it was actually really spooky. After my first book got published, I went back and read some of my entries, and there were ones where I was like, I'm imagining like this happening in this way. And like I wrote out this whole sort of like manifesting stuff, and it was like stuff that had happened. Now I like look back and was like, oh my God. Am I a witch? I don't know.
That's wild. Oh my gosh. Well, what's so funny is I'm very into like woo-woo manifestation too. And I heard you on a podcast. Yeah, I was wondering, because I heard you on a podcast talk about your Saturn return and how that was kind of what launched you into writing. And I have my story is exactly the same. It was around my Saturn return, which is kind of around the time you turn 30, where I was just like, I've always wanted to write a book. Why haven't I done it? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it was like late 20s, early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I had a job that was really boring and mind-numbing, and it was just like, there has to be more to life than this.
No, it is so common, I feel like, around that time that we kind of have this moment of like, you know, what am I doing? Like, why haven't I set out on this journey yet? And I think, you know, commit 1 month. Anyone can commit to it for a month and, you know, see what comes out at the end. And did you have any tips for people who, you know, they're doing, you know, a month-long challenge, tips for just, you know, getting to the finish line in that 1 month? Did you create an outline before, or how did you prepare?
I didn't prepare at all. I think I had a Pinterest board and a dream.
Love it. It's a tagline for this episode, a Pinterest board and a dream.
Yeah, I really didn't prepare at all. And I almost think that's the better way to go in sometimes for things like this, because you almost don't know how hard it's going to be until you're in it. And it's better to just like jump into the deep end and see what happens. I'm also a Gemini, so I'm very chaotic and just kind of like try things.
Same.
Oh, okay.
Also a Gemini, so that makes sense.
But yeah, I didn't prepare at all. I mean, I think the main thing is making sure you kind of have time set aside, especially in like the earlier part of the month. Although NaNoWriMo was always in November, which like for Americans with Thanksgiving, it was like such a challenge. But
I know.
I don't know. Maybe it's good to have an excuse to be like, no, sorry, family, I can't hang out with you. I need to go write.
I felt that way too when I've done NaNoWriMo. I'm like, okay, well now this last week is like shot. Like, what am I writing? I'm spending time with family. But you're right. Maybe it's a good excuse.
Yeah.
Do you still find that you do draft quickly based on that like initial manuscript through NaNoWriMo, or how does your drafting process? No.
Okay, so here's the thing about writing, which is you think you do learn stuff with every book, right? Like you learn skills, but then you also get better, so your standards are higher. So it just continues to be, I don't know. I'm very bad at drafting, actually. I love to like research and ideate and outline and like all of that stuff. But I love to edit. I don't love writing. It stresses me out. It's the hardest part for me. Just to like, I don't know, like that messy first draft is still very, very difficult. And I had to stop. Like for a while, I was doing more of like a word count goal, kind of like NaNoWriMo, to try and get myself going. But I found with my recent books that doesn't work so well for me. I end up with like a huge mountain of material that like, well, pretty much every book I've written, I have probably like a word count's worth of like a whole other book that got cut. That's just like a mess. Like with the favorites, what I did was, because that book, the main part of it is the main character is like telling her story to the audience. And so I did a lot of very Gemini of me, like talking into the voice recorder app on my iPhone and then putting it through a transcription software and like picking out lines. And that was sort of the first draft with that. But there was so much stuff that, I mean, it was mostly crap, right? Like I was just rambling, but then I'd ramble for like 10 minutes and then say something and be like, oh, that's something. Okay. So there's a lot of like word vomit, however I do it, whether it's dictation or just like free writing. There's just always a lot of like mess and chaos in my drafting process. And then when I get to like clean it up and make it look more like a book, that's the part that I actually enjoy more. Virgo rising, so the duality. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting in terms of, you know, you do all this back end research, and actually that brings me to a question I really wanted to ask you about the favorites. So I know it's kind of, based on Wuthering Heights,
Mhm.
which very appropriate timing given that the adaptation's coming out. Are you going to
Yep.
be watching it?
I will see it eventually. I'll probably wait till after the Olympics, but everything
Yeah,
I hear about
fair.
it makes me more upset. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Okay, but that wasn't my question. No, the question I wanted to ask, so without giving away any spoilers, but, obviously key parts of Wuthering Heights, like, you chose to incorporate certain things, you chose to leave out certain things. How did you choose what you took from the original and what you left?
Um, I'm trying to remember back now. I think it was basically just like if it once I had a sense of like my version of Kathy and Heathcliff, Cat and Heath, it was like if it seemed authentic to them or like it helped tell the story I wanted to tell. And then if it was something that just felt off track, I would just forget about it. Like, I think it sort of follows Wuthering Heights up until about the middle of the book. And
Yeah.
then I knew that I wanted to have like a less depressing ending. So then I had to figure out how to get these two messy people to like a better place by the end. And that was more driving it than the original text. I did think about doing the sort of two generations and like they have in Wuthering Heights and having it be like flashbacks and then like the kids of the I did work on it that way for a while, but I just felt like, okay, I really love these two and I want them to work it out. And like, this is not Emily Bronte's time. This is modern time. We have like therapy. We have a better understanding of psychology. We have, like, I think they can get
Mhm.
there and we don't have to have everyone die and then have their kids work it out.
Very fair.
And I think it's so interesting too that Wuthering Heights kind of cracked the code on what you were trying to work on because it wasn't originally a different story and it was
Yeah.
just not working, right?
It was two different stories. So I was writing kind of a thriller about ice dancers, and then I was writing like modern gothic. And they were both terrible, and I kept going back and forth between the two of them for like a year. This is during the pandemic. So and I had turned down a book deal from my previous publisher because they like wanted to pay me half of what they'd paid me for They Never Learn. And I just felt like that's gonna the way it always works is it's like they pay you less, then they market it less, then it sells less, and you're just like circling the drain. And I didn't want to get caught up in that. So I was out of contract working on these two books and just like delusionally going back and forth between the two of them. Like one would be really sucking and then I would be like, oh, it's because I'm supposed to be writing the other one. Like that's what it is. That's what it is. I should go back to that one. It's going to be great. Like it's going to be so perfect. And then I would work on that one and I'd be like, oh no, it sucks too. um, Back and forth for I was a delight during that time. Ask anyone. So I reread Wuthering Heights. I think I was hoping for inspiration for the gothic one more so, and then I was like, what if I wrote kind of like a gothic romance about ice dancers? And I started playing around with that and it worked weirdly well. I still I had to be like talked into it though, because I felt like so out of touch with my intuition at that point that I was just like talking to my critique partners, like, is this anything? I don't like Wuthering Heights and Ice Dance, maybe? This is crazy, right? I shouldn't do this. But yeah, in the end, my instincts were sound. It was just crazy enough to work.
Yeah. And what did your agent think about the epistolary format? So was that ever kind of like a sticking point, or was that right off the bat like, yes, this is what this book needs?
Well, here's a fun fact. I wouldn't let my agent see any of this book until it was done. I said, because she'd already like fielded all these like tearful phone calls from me and all this back and forth for the like year plus before. And when I came up with this idea, it felt very like precious. Like I couldn't let any other voices in. Like and I don't always feel that way, but with this one, it was just, I was like, I can't let anyone else influence this. I need to like be alone with it. So I sent her this email that was like, here's what I'm working on. And I sent her a couple scenes that like didn't end up being the beginning of the book. Some of them were like later in the book, but sort of a little sample so she could get the flavor of it. I don't think it had any of the documentary pieces in there. But so I sent her that and I was like, I don't want any feedback. I just want you to know what I'm working on. I'm just like informing you and I'll like keep you posted, but like that's it. And then she wrote back and was like, okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. And I immediately am like, why didn't she tell me I'm a beautiful genius? And this is the best book she's ever heard of. Why would she? I'm like, okay, I literally asked her not to say anything. But yeah, I really didn't show her anything until the book was complete. And then I sent it to her, and luckily she loved it. But I was so all in on the favorites at that point that I was like, if she doesn't like this book, I'm getting a new agent. Like, that's it. I'm so committed to this book, which is a great feeling to have. But luckily she loved it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
As we all did. And I remember you saying that your agent, when you were querying her, was your dream agent. And I'm just curious because we have a lot of querying listeners. What made her your dream agent?
It was a lot of like the people on her list. She's still to this day, and like back when I signed with her, she represents a lot of really interesting feminist, suspense and upmarket writers, like just women I wanted to know and like be in the company of. And that's been a really fun part of being her client, like kind of bonding with her other clients, and we all get along really well. So yeah, there was that. And then it was honestly, this was back in like the heyday of publishing Twitter, RIP that also. And her Twitter feed was so funny, like, and just, I don't know, it just seemed like she seemed like someone I would get along with. And also like her taste really aligned with mine, her sense of humor, just her whole sensibility, her politics, I mean, everything. So I feel like it was more like I had like a crush on her a little bit, I think, but like a business crush. And then it turned out she was like exactly the person I thought she was from her Twitter, which is rare.
And now, after you signed with her, what was the submission process like for your first book? And then you mentioned you were out of contract when you were writing the favorites. So, how did it look like going on submission again once you're already a published author?
So my first book we sold to Gallery Books, Simon and Schuster, and it was a pretty like not too dramatic process. Like we did a couple rounds of edits, like me and my agent did, and then she sent it out. And we had interest pretty quickly. It wasn't like some, fevered auction or whatever. Like it sold for a very like kind of normal debut sort of
Hmm.
amount, but there were multiple editors interested. So I got to have conversations with each of them and kind of think about like who wanted to change what the book was versus like edits to make it the best version of what I was trying to do. Like I had an editor who I really liked her otherwise, but my first book is set in the Chicago theater scene, and that's like very key. Like I live in Chicago. That's a very particular thing. It's not like New York. It's not like the West End in London. Like it's very
Hmm.
different. So there was one editor who was like, I just love this. I love the characters. I love the story. But like, what if we just set it in New York or LA or London and made it feel bigger? And I was just like, no, this is a Chicago book. I'm a Chicago author. Like that's what it is. So I knew that wasn't a good match. So yeah, that sold pretty quickly. And then I sold my second book to the same editor for let's see, it was on proposal. So it was like I didn't have a 2-book deal. It was I just submitted kind of like an outline synopsis, some sample pages, and they bought that one. And writing on proposal was actually, I mean, second books are always terrible, but writing on proposal while I was promoting Temper was just super stressful. I had a lot of panic attacks. It was like not a great time. And then they Never Learn, my second book, it came out in 2020. Not historically a great time to release a book. At least it was later in
Yeah.
the year. I have some friends who their book came out in like March 2020, and like no one knew what was going on at that point. And so Temper had not sold particularly well, which I was aware of. But because it hadn't sold particularly well, they just didn't do any marketing really for They Never Learn, like at all. Like I remember it came out October 13th, and it's like a book about a serial killer. There's like a whole set piece that's set at Halloween in the book. And my publisher did this Instagram reel about like, our book recommendations for Halloween reading like a week after the book came out and didn't include my
Ugh.
book. And I was like,
Oh,
okay.
no.
Like, I don't expect y'all to be buying billboards for me or anything, but like, you could at least like mention it. Like, are you not trying to sell this book at all? So, what was kind of wild about that one is it ended up being quite successful, but it was entirely word of mouth, like old fashioned word of
Oh.
mouth, just like bookstagrammers and people recommending it to each other. And so it worked out in the end, but I kind of knew if I stayed with that publisher, it was just going to be that circling the drain thing. And then my editor there, who I loved working with her. She's wonderful. She ended up leaving for another publisher shortly after I had turned down that book deal. So I would have been orphaned at my publisher too. And I was like feeling very validated because she was the only reason that I was like, well, maybe I don't want to leave because I love working with her so much and that I wouldn't have been working with her. So yeah, it all works out in the end.
That's wonderful. I'm glad it worked out for you.
I was wondering, you mentioned, not to dwell on this, but you mentioned having panic attacks. And I think mental health is a huge part of the publishing journey that isn't discussed enough. So if you wouldn't mind sharing maybe just some of the tools that you use to kind of, work through that. And I've also heard you talk about feelings of jealousy with your writer friends and how you're able to still support each other while also, feeling jealous of someone else's success.
Yeah, I think it is not talked about enough, but I talk about it all the time because I'm married to a therapist. I'm like a big believer in therapy and medication and all of that. So, I mean, I would say for me, I went on an antidepressant shortly before I started writing the favorites. And there's actually a shout out to Cymbalta in my acknowledgments because I couldn't have written the book without it. And it was funny because I always knew I was sort of like not a chill person. Like that's how I would have put it. Like I wouldn't have said I was anxious. I would have just been like, I'm not chill. I'm like tightly wound. And I was put on Cymbalta by a doctor who thought it might help with my chronic pain. Because it's like in some people it helps with that. So I didn't even try it for anxiety or depression. And as soon as I went on it, it actually did not help my chronic pain at all. But it was like this switch flipped and I was like, oh my God, I've been so anxious and depressed for years. Like, oh my God, it's not normal to have panic attacks and like cry multiple times a week. And like what? It was just, I had no idea how bad it was until it wasn't there anymore. And I'd been afraid of going on medication because like as an artist, especially an artist who writes about like dark things and books with a lot of like tension and drama and angst and all of that, I was just afraid it would like blunt my creativity somehow or just change me. And instead it made me, much easier to get along with in my life and work, but also it just made me able to like access a broader palette of emotions because I feel like I was mostly feeling the dark emotions and now I'm feeling like, joy and not all the time, things are still shitty in the world, but it was really eye-opening to me just how like kind of bad it had been that I didn't realize because it just felt normal to me. So the medication was a huge one. I've seen a couple different therapists, and the one I've been seeing for the last year or so who's been super helpful is a somatic therapist. So she does a lot of like body-based stuff. I think as writers, and I know this is true for me, like you can just be in your head a lot and kind of forget that you even like have a physical body. And that's been like, I think that's a lot of like with my chronic pain too, it's like you dissociate from that, but then that actually makes it worse over time. And so that's been really valuable. And then as far as other mental health stuff, having writer friends is like the most important thing. Like that's what I tell every writer who's starting out. I'm like, you need a group chat that you trust. And like the joy of the group chat is mutually assured destruction. Like no one can rat out the group chat because you all have screenshots that could like end each other's careers. So and you need to learn what is a comment for the group chat and what is a comment for social media. Because I see a lot of people posting things on social media that should have been saved for the group chat. So that's a huge one. And just like the jealousy piece, that's something that I tried to write about in the favorites because I've got Kat and her frenemy Bella, who's like her big competition. There's a lot of drama between them, but they also do really respect each other and like understand each other on this level that the other characters around them can't because they are so ambitious and driven. And being friends with other writers, it's like in that group chat, you're going to have like some people who are having a great week and they're a bestseller and they just got a new book deal and whatever. And then other people who are having like the worst time ever and are dejected. And then it's going to switch. Like it's never going to be like one person is on top all the time. So I think just remembering that this is a career with a lot of ups and downs. And like if you want people to be happy for you, when you're up, like genuinely happy for you, you need to be genuinely happy for them. But you could still be jealous. Like you don't have to pretend that you're not jealous, that you don't feel that. You can just literally, like I find with my really close writer friends, I can literally say like, bitch, I am so jealous of you and so happy for you. Like you can just say it. Just say it. And it doesn't have to mean like you can hold both of those feelings at once. It doesn't mean you're faking either one. Yeah, it's hard though. It's like you kind of have to just like let yourself feel the jealousy and not like shame yourself about it or try to hide it. Like I think that's the key is just like feel it, but don't let it make you like petty and bitter and all of those things.
Yeah. I
Oh,
like that
yeah, for
advice
sure.
so much, just being honest about it, because I feel like instead I'm always just like, I'm so happy for you. And just, tamping down the jealousy.
Yeah, let the jealousy flow freely, but like then you can feel happy for them too. I think it's really all connected. It's like you have to be
It
able to
is.
feel both.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so you mentioned you're from Chicago, right? So do you find that the majority of your writing community is local to you? We know you did an event with a very good friend of the podcast, Jenna Satterthwaite. We love her, another
Oh,
Chicago girl. Or
yes, I
have
love
you
Jenna.
found, oh, she's the best. Have you found your community online, mostly in person? Like, where do those people come from?
So I certainly have like Chicago writer friends like Jenna. Beth Kander is another one. She's an amazing author, playwright, poet, like everything. She's wonderful. She lives around here too. But my closest writer friends are actually in Los Angeles, and I met them both through Pitch Wars.
Oh, wow.
So Wendy Hurd, who's an incredible thriller author, writes both adult and YA. She was a mentor the first year, like after I had been a Pitch Wars mentee, then I was a mentor the following year, and she was also a mentor. And we got a lot of the same submissions, and we were like in, again, Twitter, RIP. We were in each other's DMs, like making fun of the horrible, pretentious ones from men. That's how we bonded, and like to this day. And then Hallie Sutton, who was my first Pitch Wars mentee, and then we later went on to co-mentor together. She's represented by the same agent that I am, and she's also in Los Angeles. And they're my main group chat. We talk every day, and very supportive of each other, and could also just destroy each other with screenshots. And I love that. That's like the truest form of friendship.
Yeah, and I guess since Twitter is not as great as it once was, are you finding you gravitate to a different social media outlet? You mentioned Bookstagram earlier on.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. That's probably the one I use the most. I've been dipping my toes in Substack lately. I think there's a really great
Uh,
bookish community there. Um, I would say, especially as you get like more established, you have to be careful you're not still just talking to other writers only on your social media. Like the point is hopefully to connect with readers and other people in the industry. And if you're just talking to other writers, it's sort of like we can only buy so many copies of each other's books. So that's been an adjustment. Like at first, I was like, I just want to talk to my writer friends, and I'm trying to be a little more like sociable in
Yeah.
general. But I've been having fun on Substack. There's like a lot of really cool people in there, especially in the figure skating community. I become friends
Really?
with a couple skating bloggers over there too.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow. I have not seen these skating vloggers. I'll need to look into them.
Well, if you follow me on Substack, I'm going to be like linking to them a lot the next week or two. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, right. Makes sense.
Mhm.
That's amazing. Well, speaking of Substack, I just was reading your post about the Ice Queens, and very excited to be a subscriber. And you
Thank you.
mentioned that the Ice Queens is set in the same world as the favorites, which when you announced it, I didn't initially realize. That is so cool to me. I love that it's not, technically a sequel, but if you there's the Easter eggs there, if you've read the
Mhm.
favorites. Are you able to tell us any of the people that we might see, or is that still under lock and key?
Um, Ellis Dean will definitely be making an appearance again because, fan favorite Ellis Dean,
Love.
who's
Love.
played by Johnny Weir in the audiobook of The Favorites,
So
and I'm
cool.
hoping we can get him back.
You have
And
to.
then the other main one is actually Bella. She's going to be the coach of the women who are the main characters of this new book. So I'm excited to
Amazing.
write more about her. I
Yeah.
always say I'm Bella Lynn's like defense attorney because people are always talking trash about her, but I love her so much. So more Bella to come.
That's amazing. Amazing. Well, speaking of Bella, and you're saying you're her ultimate defender, I know you love an unlikable female character, and
Sure
we
do.
you need this hat if you don't already have it. This hat says unlikable female character, and I
Does it
wear
come in
it.
black?
It may.
I need it in black.
But yeah, we're big fans of them here. And what is it about them that you've chosen to write so many unlikable female characters? Because I find them the most interesting, and I don't even think I'm capable of writing a likable female character personally.
Yeah, so back when I guess we started it before I was published, but I used to host a podcast called Unlikable Female Characters with Wendy Hurd, who I mentioned before, and Kristen LaBianca, who's another amazing crime writer. And I think we did it for 4 years over the course of this podcast where we interviewed authors and we also just like talked about various pop culture things and books we loved and everything. We kind of came to the conclusion that it's not possible to write a likable female character because as in real life, people will find something to hate about any woman. It's like either you're too mean, too bossy, too whatever, or you're like too nice, you're a pushover, you should stand up for yourself. There's no way to win. So I write women who are unapologetically themselves, and I try to be that as well and try to surround myself by women who are unapologetically themselves, and that makes them unlikable to a lot of people, but like like screw it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. How do you get to be unapologetically yourself? Because personally, I am such a people pleaser and it's so exhausting. And I would love a few tips on, getting away from that.
I don't know because I've just like never been, I don't know. I was like a very willful child and I've never been, it's actually been interesting as I've gotten further in my writing career, because I would have always said like, I'm not a people pleaser. I do what I want. I don't apologize. And then as I've gotten specifically the last year with the favorites coming out and like doing so well, and I'm getting invited to lots of things and asked to do a lot of things, and I found it really hard to say no even when I'm overwhelmed. And so I was like, oh, am I a people pleaser? Oh no. But I think like the main thing is just to figure out like what it is that you want underneath all the like pressures of society and your family and like whoever else in your life. Like what is it that you really want? Like I always knew, it's like getting beyond writing, but like I always knew that I didn't want to have kids and I wasn't super interested in like traditional marriage. And like so I've just coming from that and like knowing I was queer from a pretty young age, I've just like questioned everything as far as like, is this something I want, or is this something society is telling me to want? And so I think that's just like everything in your life, you just question it, and you're gonna like piss off some people in your life though.
Oh yeah,
But it's
that's for
worth it.
sure. But also questioning everything is a great practice for a writer.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Because I said traditional marriage. It's funny. I've been with my partner we're celebrating our 20th anniversary next week.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It's during the Olympics, so we're not going out. We're watching the Olympics. He knows. But maybe that's a good example. Like we don't have, even though like I'm bi, he's straight, we've been together all this time, but like we don't have a traditional relationship at all. Like it just is very like we create our own rules. And that's worked for me, but I like never would have thought when I was younger that I would be in like such a long-term relationship. I thought I would be single forever, and I was pretty happy about that actually.
How did you two meet?
In college, doing theater. Yeah, he was an actor and I was a dramaturg.
Oh wow.
Amazing. I'm also a former theater kid, although maybe do you still do theater, or is it all writing now?
It's all writing. Yeah, all the drama on the page. I haven't really done theater since grad school.
Yeah, I totally understand that. There's honestly not enough time. The being involved in theater is extremely time consuming.
And then you have to be around theater people.
Yeah. Hit or miss there, guys.
I say as a theater person married to a theater person, but I'm like, theater people, listen.
No, it's so true, though. I feel like, I mean, Tali and I were just talking about this yesterday, just how you kind of always have to question everything. Even when it comes to publishing, I love hearing different and unique publishing stories because it just goes to show like it really is, no right way. And that leads me to
Yeah.
ask, like, how did you feel, when the favorites it really struck a nerve and maybe a way that you weren't seeing with your first couple books? Like, how did you feel? And maybe what were some of your favorite moments of last year with that book coming out?
I'm continually shocked by it and also very like vindicated and validated. Because when I was writing this book, even though like I had to believe in it enough to finish it out of contract, and like I said, I was like, if my agent doesn't like this, I'm kicking her to the curb. Like I was really serious about it, very dedicated to it. But I still felt like, who is going to want to read this weird Wuthering Heights ice dance, like dark, toxic thing like this? It just was so what I wanted to read, but I didn't know if it would resonate with literally anyone else.
Mhm.
Um, and then, like, my first hint that maybe it would resonate was when we went out on submission and immediately got a lot of interest, multiple offers, like a much more intense and fast submission process than I'd seen before. And all I'd been hearing over the course of the pandemic was like how slow everything was, and I should be prepared to wait. And so I was like even more taken aback and like, okay, we've got something here. But even then, I was like, okay, but these are book people. They love Wuthering Heights. They love, this isn't necessarily going to resonate with the broader audience, the broader public. Yeah, I think it really just shows like if you write something that is authentically you and something that you're just like obsessed with. Like I love reading a book about anything that like that author is obsessed with. Like the example I always give is Margot's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe,
Mm,
which was like it's one of my favorite books of all time. It's so good.
me
I'm very
too.
excited for the show coming out soon.
Yeah.
But there's like this whole theme of professional wrestling in that book. And I don't care about professional wrestling at all. I went to see Ruthie do an event in Chicago, and she was talking all about all these different wrestlers that she loves and like this whole world. And I could have listened to her talk about that for like 24 hours straight because she was so passionate. Like I don't care about that, but her passion really came across, and it came across in the book too. So I think it's like if it's something that you are interested in enough to like
Mm.
obsessively like deep dive dig in with it for the
Mhm.
months, years, however long it takes you to write a book, then that energy is going to come across to the reader, even if it's not something that you like, that they would immediately be like, oh, I love Ice Dance. Or same thing with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Like, I don't care about video games, but I was
Yeah.
obsessed with that book. And you
Me
could tell
too.
she was obsessed with the subject matter.
These
Yeah.
are such good examples. Wow. I haven't thought about it that way because I love all three of these books that we've talked about. And I could care less about any of those topics. But like for some reason, I just was like, I couldn't stop reading. And I was like, this is incredible. Then I remember after reading the favorites, I was like, do I love figure skating? Like, am I going to start watching figure skating? Um, luckily I have the Winter Olympics to watch now, but I felt the same way. I actually put off reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Margot's Got Running Money Troubles because I read the pitch and I was just like, I don't think this is for me. Ended up being obsessed with both of those books.
Yeah, I really think that's the key. And you see it so often in writing and other kinds of art too, where it's like when someone is just like, I am so tired of trying to write to the market and predict what other people want. And
Mhm.
I'm just going to write this one. This one's for me. This one's just for me.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens. That's the one that breaks out. Like I've seen it happen so many times.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show like, you can try to write to the market, you can try to follow trends, but they're going to pass you by. Like just do what you are truly passionate about, and it's
Mhm.
never nothing's a guarantee, but I think you have a much better chance of having the success that you want, like if you're doing that. And if it doesn't work out, at least you had fun writing it and like obsessing about this niche thing that you're into.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes to writing to market, did you find that, let's take the favorites for example. Was there kind of a movement towards ice dancing or towards the arts in editing and what editors were looking for? Or what was it about it that you think made it so appealing? The concept, the prose, like what was the combo?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like kind of the weirdness of mashing those two things together. That's what my editor said. She was like, because most of the popular figure skating books are like romance novels with like a skater and a hockey player and like pretty traditional gender roles. Like, which is totally fine. Like that's, but that's not what I wanted to write. And I think it stood out to my editor and to readers as well, because it isn't that. Like it's kind of thorny and weird and dark and all that stuff. Now I do get people picking it up thinking it's one of those nice figure skater romances, and then I get angry emails from them. So there's always that. But I feel like if your book isn't like pissing off a certain percentage of the reader population, you're like not
Very
trying hard
fair.
enough.
Very
yeah,
fair.
but it was interesting when I was because I actually pitched the earlier Ice Dance book, not like the one that kind of eventually became the favorites, to my publisher, my original publisher, and they were like, "That sounds really niche. No one wants to read about Ice Dance. Like that's like write something else." And now every time I see the sales numbers, I'm like, "Oh, no one wants to read about Ice Dance, huh? Interesting." But every time, like as I was working on the book, there were all of these things like Hannah Grace's book Icebreaker came out and was huge. Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote Carrie Soto is Back, and it was the top of the New York Times bestseller list. So I was like, see, sports books. But it was like I was already working on this, so it was just like more evidence to me to like keep going. And I was so excited every time I saw another book pop up. I did have like a genuine fear that Taylor Jenkins Reid was like going to become an Ice Dance fan and like beat me to it.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. So when she said her next book was about astronauts, I was like, oh, thank God. Okay.
Yeah. Which also Atmosphere. Oh my gosh, so good.
So good.
But yeah, and then we have Heated Rivalry now, which very similarly took a sport and just completely different spin on it. Have you watched it at all?
Obsessed. Yes. I've watched most of the episodes multiple times.
Amazing.
It is like I'm always really interested in stuff like that takes off in such a huge way. It's like, what is it? And I think there too, you're seeing the like authenticity of the acting, the writing, like all of that. And people just really respond to, but people are like feral for that show. It is unhinged. I absolutely love it. And it's definitely bumped my sales. I think I've seen the favorites on a lot of lists that are like, if you like Heated Rivalry, you might like this. And they're not like a super exact comp, but I'll take it.
That's interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I think just, a couple final questions. You've mentioned Taylor Jenkins Reid. Is she one of your favorite authors? And who are some other authors that you like?
Love her. I love Ashley Winstead, who writes.
She was on the show.
She was on the pod.
Oh, yeah. Ashley is the freaking best. Okay. Like, I love her. She just does what she wants. Like, she writes like every genre all under her name. Like, she doesn't do a pen name. I just admire her so much. She's so gutsy. I can't wait for Hot Girl Murder Club. Like, what?
I know.
The best title.
I just got the arc. I'm like dying to dive in. I'm so excited.
Okay, I need to slide into her DMs and try
get on that, Layne.
She was I did like a thing with her for Independent Bookstore Day last year, and we were out like having a drink after, and she was like, "Yeah, my next book is called Hot Girl Murder Club," and I was like, "Say less." I really like authors like that who kind of like create their own space. Like Rachel Harrison is another one in the horror space. I just really admire how I'm sure she was told like this doesn't fit in the horror marketplace or whatever, and now she has like made a space in the horror marketplace that's like her space. Those are the people I really admire.
Yeah, those are good picks. Thank you so much, Layne, for joining us.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you so much.
And thank you all so much for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and remember to check back next Tuesday for a new episode of the Pros podcast.